Oh, thanks.
We're recording.
Even search for. She did. I'm saying. For you too, Dale.
Well, thank you. Hey, Adam. How's it going? All right.
Because this is where we are now. So that's residential, that's commercial, and all three are the same. And then the sewer is just barely different. So most places, their commercial and industrial is way higher than their residential, but ours is not.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you take roll call, please?
Sorry. So, Michelle Stout? Here. Monica? Here. Uncle, sorry. Ms. Halcone? Here. Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Kolinsky?
Here.
Mr. Stout?
Here.
Ms. Cook? Here. So,
Councilmember Hassler is not here tonight because, as word would have it, her daughter had a baby finally. So, congratulations to the family. Just want to note for the record that on September 25th, there was an executive session held regarding personnel matters. And everybody got the minutes to review beforehand? Okay. So we're just looking for a motion then to approve the minutes of March 12th, September 11th, and September 25th, if there's no questions or revisions.
I was gonna say on, March's minutes, this was the month we talked about changing what we currently have with our sidewalks. So we currently have ordinances that require everyone to have a sidewalk on the frontage of their house. We're not going to do that right now. We're gonna wait till we do each street. I mean, right now, people could be at any time, the council could enforce that.
Right.
So do we want to change that ordinance? Because we didn't really discuss
What would you
policy.
propose changing it to?
Well, I'm saying what we had discussed, in these minutes, we had discussed waiting until we pave a street to then make decisions on the sidewalks for that particular street as we go through time.
I brought that up as a concept, but I don't know that it's fully fleshed out to the point where I'd like to.
Are the minutes accurate? Do they accurately reflect the discussion?
I think they do, yes, they do accurately reflect that.
Okay.
So we don't really have to change anything with them.
Okay, so then for now, let's just move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it. All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I wanted an addition on the September 11th where we're talking about the farming, that I had raised some concerns about pesticides and fertilizers and the style of farming that we done. There is an aquifer under that property which feeds into, so with rainwater, whatever he's putting on the farm field soaks down into the aquifer, which then affects people's soil water. That's my reason for it. So that's on page 4 for September 11th. Top 10.
which paragraph?
1, 2, 3, 4. I still would like more information from the county, but as far as the minutes go.
So what am I guess I'm not clear, what am I stating in there?
What exactly would you like Ms. Cook to state instead of discussion ensued?
Ms. Cook would like to know chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers to be used in the farming.
Is that what you want the minutes to say, or you're asking that request now?
That's, I had said that.
Okay, all right. I just want to be clear.
Something along that line.
Thank you.
and I still would like that now, so. Perhaps before the lease is signed, we'll get to that later.
Okay, so including the addition that Ms. Cook has asked for, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
And a second.
And a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Next up, communications. Nothing.
Oh, yes, I do, I'm sorry. We did get communicated to us by the State Auditor General, Topton Firemen's Relief Association compliance audit for January 1, 2020 to December 31st, 2022. And it was completed September 2023. It's a public document. It may be viewed by the public at any time in our office during regular office hours. There were minor items listed for non-compliance, including inventory, a list of inventory, but nothing major, so it was a good audit.
Mayor's report.
I guess, all the guys walking around town, I see a lot of people have decorated for Halloween, so I guess everybody's gearing up for the parade. That's all I got.
Cool. All right, Dale?
Thank you. Police report for September 2023, Topton 1,125 patrol miles, 101 patrol hours. We handled 23 incidents. Issued 21 traffic citations, 3 non-traffic citations. They completed 14 additional hours of traffic checks, 3 hours of paperwork, 26 vehicle stops, 2.5 hours of criminal investigation time. One incident we handled was a weapons offense. We took a report regarding a person that was prohibited from attempting to purchase a prohibited person attempted to purchase a firearm at the gun shop. That case was assigned to C.A. Merkel and the charge was filed. So basically what happens, they're just real quick. I think these reports used to go to PSP at one point, and then when we took over the part-time stuff, they started sending all the reports to us. So basically, if anyone goes in that's prohibited from purchasing a firearm, they attempt to, it's a crime, obviously, in
Right.
PA. All those reports get sent to us, and then I send it to my CI. Basically, it's a pretty easy case. You sign it, you can't, you're trying to get one, et cetera. So we seem to be getting a couple of those. Some we've had Richmond Township as well, but it seems to be becoming more and more consistent. So, but anyway, that's what that's all about. So that's.
Are you seeing it more at the smaller shops
Yeah.
like that?
We are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's what people are. I don't know for sure, but
Get away with it.
right.
Yeah, Cabela's doesn't seem like a place you can get out of, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or,
So
or maybe the guy will make you a deal, you never know, right?
Right. So now the good thing is, for the handgunner, he is
He's a stand-up guy.
he's a stand-up guy. He does the right thing, and we're glad to see that as well. So the citation breakdown: 10 parking violations, 6 speeding, 1 speeding school zone violation, 1 abuse of traffic control devices. I'm not sure exactly what for that. We use that for all kinds of different things. 1 driving under suspension, 1 stop sign, and 1 registration violation. And the other thing I have is the equipment. I got the new Explorer, replacing the one that we flooded, and that's currently being outfitted. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you know if the car was ever cited on, we talked about it so many times,
East Barkley or
Barkley,
Topton?
parking on the, facing the
Parking
runway
lot.
on the street,
That I don't know.
burgundy or maroon colored?
I know Stacy or her staff sends me emails, it goes right to patrol. So I'd assume that it was handled if it was parked there, but I don't have it.
While you're on shift,
Correct.
it was
Yeah,
there.
I push it out to them, and even if we're not working, I still push it out to the department only because a lot of times they're still parked like that. So whenever they come on duty, that's something that we'll check on. My guys are pretty good about that stuff, and gals are pretty good about that stuff, so I would assume that's being taken care of. Yeah, and keep in mind too, even if people continue to park and we continue to ticket them, it doesn't mean they're gonna stop doing what they do. So we'll just keep at them, and eventually, and right now they're not throwing anybody in jail for failure to pay parking tickets. So it's a real problem for us, amongst other things. So, the other question I had is, regarding the parade, maybe you guys don't have an answer, but I looked at the weather, it looks like rain on Saturday. When do we know when
That's
they?
not our call.
I understand, but do we know when they make that call? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I think the general understanding is it's been so long since it's been canceled because of rain, they're probably gonna try and hold out as long as it can before it's just a clear, this isn't gonna work today.
And Sunday's iffy with the rain too.
Yeah, I
It
saw
isn't
that.
flat out, okay, it's gonna stop, Saturday 10 PM, so Sunday we're good, so.
Does anybody here ever remember it being canceled for
No.
rain?
No.
So we wouldn't even know what to expect on Sunday?
It always just kind of.
A lot fewer entries
I would,
and
yeah, a lot fewer people and
Yes.
a lot fewer floats.
It's just, the reason I'm asking, because it makes a big difference for me, for manpower.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Sure.
you know, I have plenty on Saturday, for Saturday night, but Sunday I'm really light on it, so I'm trying to figure out
Yeah,
what
I
to
couldn't give
do.
you numbers, but I can tell you lighter is just what it, you know what I mean? It's
I
gonna
would
be
assume
lighter
so.
all around.
Sunday, they do it Sunday, they do it at noon. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's at like 1 PM or something.
One.
Yeah, it's been many years since we
But
had
yeah,
it
but
canceled.
It's not
on
nice if
Sunday.
it's Sunday.
It's after.
25 years, maybe?
A light rain's not gonna stop it, you know?
Well, that's, I guess, so I guess I'm just concerned about when will I be notified, or how does that go through
That
them? or-
you'll probably, I would imagine, hear from the fire department. They tend to handle all of the disaster channels.
Yeah, cause I got a bunch of deputies coming, there's a lot of people that are
Yeah.
involved in this, so I just
Yeah.
don't wanna,
There, yeah,
Steve Klein
Steve
is our
Klein is
emergency
the-
management coordinator, so he would be the one who
Probably
would be
make that
disseminating that
Yeah.
information once he hears the word.
do we,
COC.
okay.
can we put them in touch?
Oh, you're on
Directly
the,
or-
you and the sergeant are both on the
On the email
chain.
chain, yeah.
Yes.
So if you wanna talk to Steve directly, you
Okay.
might be able to get a better idea of what their plan is on
We
that.
will
I-
see him Thursday.
Okay. I assume
But
that's what you guys would say, but
But
I
that's
just
pretty
wanted to know.
close.
Yeah.
So if you wanna contact him tomorrow, it's Tuesday, better than Thursday, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's up to you.
Yeah. No, I can reach out, to I just didn't know if any of you guys knew how it worked, but it's
No,
been
it's
so
never,
long.
it's never happened since I've been
Yeah,
here.
Oh,
no.
wow, okay.
Sorry.
COVID was the only year and we knew that was,
Yeah,
that
we
was
knew
just
that
a
was
flat
coming.
out, it wasn't a last minute thing.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for me, or anything, any other issues that are going on? If not, I have another meeting, that's why I'm asking. I'm gonna go.
No, nothing we haven't
Thank you
discussed
very
yet.
much.
You're welcome, it's good seeing everybody.
Yeah, you
Take care, have a good evening.
You
Yep.
too.
Take care, thank you.
All right, so we'll move on, hearing of visitors, anybody got anything? No? Okay. Quick. All right, Solicitor Joan.
All right, this is an ordinance that was advertised for adoption for tonight. It was advertised in the Reading Eagle on September 29th. It's an ordinance authorizing disconnection and termination of water services for failure to pay sewer and water charges. This is authorized under the Water Services Act, which allows for shut-off of water for failure to pay sewer bills after there's been notice. The ordinance provides for a notice to owners of bills that are delinquent, and also for potential attorney's fees if the bills have to go to collection. The contents of the notice states that where the amount of money owed, where the bill can be paid, and a notice that there could be a shut-off if the bill isn't paid within 30 days. There's also a late charge of $10, and again, possible disconnection of service, and there also would be reinstatement charges, which would be set by resolution. And it would become effective immediately. So I'll need a motion to adopt ordinance number 3-2023.
Anybody have any questions? Is there any questions? All in favor? All opposed?
All right, the next item is the farm lease agreement for the Elton Youth, who had been farming the property and approximately 20 acres along Home Road and Tower Road. And we had asked for bids for the farming of the property. Mr. Muth, had the highest bid, annual rent of $35 per acre for a total rent of $350, payable on the first business day of the year. I have in here, first of all, does everyone have a copy? Okay. I have in here that that the lease would be for a period of 25 years. The reason I've chosen that amount of time is that any lease longer than 24 years has to be recorded with the county, and we wanted to have some record running with the land. So that's why I chose 25 years as opposed to another 99-year lease, which is what the verbal lease or written lease that nobody can find has been. This would be, though, a lease for his lifetime, and that was in response to comments received, rather than a lease running with the land and binding on heirs, administrators, and successors. It would be either until he would terminate the lease or until he would die. And I understand, Carol, you had some questions.
I have concerns about his farming practices.
Okay. I've put in there in all caps at the end of 2.1, lessee agrees that biosolids shall not be used on the property. I also have in here at 2.1 that it's limited to crop farming, so it would not be, for example, used as a dairy or poultry farm or a pig farm, accepted in industry standards of farming appropriate to the terrain, topography, and proximity to a wellhead for a public water source, and in compliance with environmental laws and regulations, and holding the borough harmless for any violation of environmental laws. Is there additional language that you would want added to that?
I'm wondering how we would know if he was in violation of any of the standards. Once he's farming.
That's how other farms are checked upon, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's agreeing.
It's gotta be like USDA or something.
He's agreeing not to utilize any chemical or any technique which would damage the wellhead area. I mean, because there has to be a certain distance from the wellhead.
I don't know where the wellhead is related to this property. And my concern is more the aquifer, which underlies other properties all around, other people's wealth.
I think that's probably just, like I said, however farms are generally checked on in those circumstances, is whatever regulating agency handles that. It's not something we're gonna do.
Right, in the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture,
Yeah.
if this is a food source, the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture regulations apply, and inspections would apply, and licensing would apply. And if it is if the wellhead is on the property and there's an isolation distance from the wellhead, which is I think it's up to 400 feet for a public water source, that would be under the regulation of Department of Environmental Protection.
Would you like to see how he farms? I'll tell you where he farms.
I would like to see how he farms, and I'd like to ask him how many pounds of nitrogen per acre does he put down?
Well, I mean, here's what I'll point out though, is that he's already farming the land right next to it. So if we don't execute this lease, we're not really going to be affecting very much of what he's doing either way.
He's been farming for the last 25 years right across from our springs.
Was he allowed to do that?
It's his land.
He owns that property.
He owns
He leases the land.
He leases it.
John, I'm
Not from
concerned
the
about
borough.
25 years, like, why don't we
That's
just
a
have
lot closer
automatic
to our
renewal
water
every so
source.
many years? Because suppose things change, that we don't want to have a commitment of this guy being here for 25 years, at the very least.
I think what she's saying, anything under 24 and it doesn't get recorded with the
Doesn't get
borough,
recorded
or with
with
the
the
county, sorry.
That was the reason for it. And the the prior lease had been a long-term lease of 99 years, so this is,
We didn't have a lease.
Somebody says we did, but
Yeah, so
somebody, nobody
verbal
knows,
isn't a
so.
real lease.
Right. I mean, there was an agreement of some sort, we just don't know where it is, we've had some turnover in the office over time, and that happens, and that's why there's, I mean, you can record a lease of lesser length, and it's up to council what amount of time you want on the lease, whether you want it year to year renewable, or you want a greater commitment. How was it presented?
I just don't like that long a term, because if there's a change, we wanna liquidate that property, and there's some need that we want to just.
This was a problem we
Well,
weren't even
and-
aware of.
and it-
Exactly.
You know what I mean, like,
And it's also says
we're
the
talking
part,
this to death, and it wasn't something we've thought of for 40 years.
there is something else, and then it says the parties agree that this lease shall remain in effect at the same annual rent unless either party provides written notice of termination to the other at least 60 days prior to the desired date of termination, and that's in section 1.1.
So we
you
can
do-
terminate it if it was
You
to
do
that point.
have an
Yeah.
out, there's not an events of default that,
So it's 25 years, if he doesn't wanna renew it, I mean, if we don't wanna renew it, we don't have to.
If nothing changes, we don't have to talk about it for 25 years. If we feel we need to terminate it, we just gotta give them 60 days.
Or if he chooses to.
Or if he
As long as
chooses
we can terminate.
Yeah, we can
But
terminate
the thing is,
it.
it doesn't have to be, it can be unilaterally, we can just say we want to change it.
Just says
we
provide the
that's-
notice of termination at least 60 days
Right,
prior to the
yeah.
desired
So
date
there-
of termination.
Unless
Doesn't give
the
any
court
reasoning.
provides a written notice of termination.
Doesn't say anything about reasoning. You can do it for whatever reason.
Right.
That's right, you
That's
can-
not really a 25-year lease, I mean. if
It
it's-
is if we don't wanna do anything with it, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you, for some reason, if 10 years from now you wanna change it, we can give them 60 days notice and terminate it. But if we don't have.
As long as that's the
you know,
case, as long as we can terminate this, if we change our, in 10 years, there's a.
you can, yes, it can be terminated, again, with 60 days notice. If he's not paying the rent, it can be terminated with 30 days notice.
Ethan, did you say there's land that abuts this acreage that
Mhm.
he's already been from?
Yeah, this is just a little like cutoff of that he's also been farming, because he asked, I guess, however long ago, and somebody said he could. So my point is his farming practices are affecting that area on a property that we can do nothing about.
Well, a 20-acre farm deed, he's not going to be sending people out to do a whole lot of checking on, so, but if it's attached to something bigger, then perhaps they would be keeping.
Well, I mean, if he does this as a business and he's filing with the IRS and things like that, then there's a regulatory agency that's overseeing it, you know?
Look, in the past year, we had changes to the amount of nitrogen even homeowners can put on their lawns,
Sure.
so. things
But
change.
that would be up to,
Does he-
you know, how much they're,
Yeah, does he keep up with those changes?
that would be how much are they inspecting,
So
you know?
that's what I was thinking, for 20 acres, are they going to bother inspecting, but if it's a larger farm, then they'd be more likely.
You're right, it's more likely. And then,
And also, I have to say that since our system is a public water system, it's being monitored, and if all of a sudden the nitrate levels start to go up, that's something that the borough's going to investigate.
No, they
and
should be
look for
going
the
down,
cause.
they should be going down.
Right, but that's.
this is something though that I would say is great for the source water protection plan, these types of letters to the landowners in the area, those, potential, what were they called?
Sources of
Potential
contamination.
contamination, right, yeah,
Sorry.
whatever that was, the
I know the acronym.
the acronym for it was, send a letter out to them, just at least saying like, hey, this is what's going on, and we had this study done, and, you know, if they'd like any more information, they can see the study here at the borough, and
Yeah, because we are the landowner.
on this one, yes. But I mean, to get to the
So
surrounding
I didn't
people.
know what due diligence we should be doing in advance. I'm sure we've covered things nicely as far as heat, because that's liability and whatnot, but there's a huge aquifer, it's probably 2/3 of Berks County. And, it's underneath this 20 acres, so if he's not doing the right thing, in fact, anybody with a well, in that huge area. So that was just a concern, the 25 years seems long to me. I mean, what about, since we were talking earlier, any cost of living increases?
Well, the idea of this type of lease is it's a benefit to to the borough, not just as a matter of income, but also of keeping the land farmed, keeping it from growing in.
Well, let's be honest, it's not a benefit financial, it's
Right.
$350.
Right, that's not why we're doing
So,
this.
but,
That's not why you do it.
we don't have the resources to check these kinds of things, we don't have the know-how to check these kinds of things, so it would be left up to whatever agency checks those things, and if there was a violation, that would be reason to terminate the lease, you know what I mean, those kinds of things.
Right, especially since it's in the lease right up front,
Yeah.
that he is using industry standard methods of farming appropriate to proximity to wellhead for a public water source. Stacy, when you sent out the notice for bids, did you get?
Length was not discussed.
Length was not discussed, okay, so this is the time if you want, if council wants it changed, we can do that, if you want the term changed. Because when I originally sent this out to council, that was left blank. I've suggested 25 years as a way of making sure that it has to be recorded. It can be recorded if it's a lesser length of time, but it has to be recorded if it's more than 24 years, but that's a policy decision that council needs to make, so if you want it for a term of less than that, that's
I
fine.
personally feel it's fine the way it's written. I think it provides a lot of protection for us. This is a very minor thing. It's basically just we're implementing some accountability on the property, like you're kind of speaking to.
I'm concerned with that.
Right. But all we can really do is introduce that accountability, I suppose. We can't check on it, we can't, you know, and 25 years, like I said, we have the right to terminate any time with 60 days notice.
We don't have to do a cost to terminate.
There is nothing in
But it
here
just
that
says,
calls to terminate.
just have to give 60 days.
Do we need a motion or anything, or?
You do.
Yeah, we would need a motion to.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay, and the other item is an update on the meeting with Teamsters Local 773. Brian Taylor, who was the Teamsters representative, had asked for some dates. I checked with Attorney Boland and his schedule. He gave several dates during the daytime in October and into the first week of November. Between the 23rd of October and the 2nd of November, all daytime, most of them in the morning between 9 and noon, one day, the 30th, between 1:30 and 4:30, so I'm waiting for Mr. Taylor to get back to me, and then we'll set something up.
Okay. We've been speaking a little bit about this. Is there a way that we can meet with your colleague before?
You should, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, we'll arrange for that either.
How is that held when would it have to be at one of our publicly advertised meetings, or?
Yeah, you're consulting with your
Okay.
attorney, and be subject, it's labor, deals with labor negotiations,
So
which
it's
is
an executive
considered,
session, essentially?
considered an executive session topic, or less than a quorum could meet with them.
Well, I suppose that would be up to us individually, if everybody would like to be there. I don't have any problem listing it as an executive session and noting it at the next meeting that comes.
Right, it's
you
an
know.
executive session for labor
Right,
negotiations.
yeah,
labor
yeah,
relations,
so-
So that's fine. I can ask him when he'd be available.
Okay.
Probably late afternoon is better if you can, but if not, I'll try to find a free evening. He has a schedule similar to mine.
Okay.
And he represents school districts, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So
That's
if maybe
what
everybody could keep it in their heads,
he's-
we do something not at 7, but maybe at 4:30 or 5, if we can, as soon as we can make it to that kind of a time frame, or, you know, we'll work out the details, I suppose.
Okay, I'll get with his secretary and him and his calendar.
Awesome, thank you. All right, does that all go?
That's all I have.
Okay. So then on to the manager, please, Stacy.
As council knows, we had some delays in starting up the tax collector audit for 2022. That is now underway with with RKL's representatives. They did their on-site work and now have everything, hopefully, that they need with Tom Billcliff really helped us out, so kudos to Tom
Big thanks
as
to
our
Kathy as
current,
well.
and Kathy Hassler for organizing the records. We met, Monica and I met with our insurance broker. We're pretty happy with the way they do their business, so we did not predict any changes that were needed for 2024 in terms of having a different broker at this time. So I'm sure that if the insurance policies themselves need tweaking, we can go through that at a later time with that broker, or if we do want to change brokers. And we are currently looking at softwares in the office for accounting, billing, and payroll. Pricing for that, we got an exorbitant quote the first time that everybody heard about, and now, pursuing another vendor that is listed on CoStars. So that would eliminate the need for, it would still need to be a reasonable cost, but need to put out an RFP or get quotes. So that's that. Any questions on those items? The next item I have under my section of the agenda is that the County of Berk's Planning Commission has presented a slate of items to be funded, and that slate was presented to the county commissioners, and we were slated to receive $25,000 to be used toward our revision to our park master plan. We got a quote of the service from Various and Associates, so that was used as backup documentation for the grant request. So now we're just waiting to hear if we did definitely get the funding, but in the meantime, the Planning Commission requests that we do sign the agreement that was presented to both myself and our solicitor. And I believe, Joan, you probably had time to review it, hopefully. And if it's all right to get a motion from council to move forward with at least executing our part of the agreement.
I think if I remember correctly, last you said that they wanted 50,000 to review.
Barry Isid and Associates, that was not a concrete number, so we're gonna go back to knowing how much we may receive in grant funding to see if those numbers can be tweaked at all. So hopefully.
Well, I guess my question is, why would we spend any money on it? Because we don't have any money to actually put anything into the park. Does it make sense to
fill in the pool, we have to rework the plan.
Why?
Right?
No, that was a loan.
No.
Oh, no, okay.
That's
If we would
completely
want-
separate.
Oh, yeah, okay.
My understanding is we only need the master plan if we're getting grants to do something, but the grants don't cover everything, so we would need cash, and we don't have cash to spend on the park. So does it make sense to spend any money on the park when we can't actually do anything in the park?
Charlie, have any thoughts on that one?
So one of the things is, we did talk internally, Brian comes back from vacation tomorrow, we're going to rescope it to be under the amount of funding that you'll have for that. The big issue on it's public participation, which means we'll have to dial that back somewhat. It's really, in the end, it's up to you. It's how you're going to approach.
I mean, for me, if it's within the grant amount and it's nothing out of pocket, then.
Oh,
why not do it?
we're gonna
But-
dial that into that scope,
Yeah.
so you're not,
Okay, so with that knowledge.
And-
If that's the case, yes, if that's the case, I'm good. I didn't think it made sense to spend money when we don't have money to actually.
No,
do
yeah,
it.
I agree with you, I was a little jumbled
You
up
know what I
there,
mean?
so I was
Yeah.
a lot
Okay.
going on.
If that's gonna be the case, I have no problem. We're good.
The one thing I have a problem with is on page 2, paragraph B. Any capital projects for which grant funds may be used, grantees shall include signage or other notice and acknowledgement in all electronic or printed materials or press relating to the project to the public stating. And then it's talking about 3 current commissioners who, 50 years from now, we're gonna have a sign with people who,
No, I think they're talking about just any,
No, that,
for which the grant funds.
they
may
mean
be
the
used.
grants from this, though, right?
Yeah,
I think they
Yeah,
have
so-
this agreement.
Yeah, the
So
sign,
if-
that's their sign requirements, and it's, every grant program has a sign
want their-
requirement that you've gotta do. It's one of the, let me say, fun things we've gotta do, is we've gotta put the sign up. And, most of the signage comes down when you've expended the grant and close it out, cause it's a 4x8 sheet of plywood. But, yeah,
It's on that, Carol, it's not like a plaque that we're putting up, it's on the boards where all the public notices are and things about, like when you get a permit to
Okay.
build.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
So we
struck-
have one in
it
the park
struck-
for
It
the-
struck me as very much like when you go by road work that's funded by federal money.
While they're doing the work.
While they're doing the work, it says funded by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Improvement Act. It struck me as like that. Now, there are a lot of buildings though that where the cornerstone has, or the plaque has, the names of the individuals who were the commissioners at the time. Like you walk into the county courthouse and you'll see the names of who was were the county commissioners, who was the project engineer, who was the county solicitor. You do see that, it's not that different, but I think this is more like the signs you see on the road, that funding by
Yes.
the Bipartisan Infrastructure Improvement Act.
And since this is a plan, and it's $25,000 for a written plan, and it's not a capital project in and of itself, the $25,000 is going toward,
No one's really ever gonna see it.
it's,
There's
it
no-
doesn't apply to us, that's how I took it.
Alright, so then,
We need a motion.
I
do
need,
we have a motion to, accept the $25,000, should they finally decide to give it to us?
and execute the agreement.
And execute, well, that's what I was gonna say,
Oh,
but yeah,
sorry.
execute the agreement.
Sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you very much. And then just a reminder, I'm sure Monica was going to remind everyone, the budget presentation to the public is going to occur on October 23rd at 7 PM in this room. Thank you.
Alright, thank you, Stacy. Committee reports, Carol, you're up first.
Yep, still, working with PennDOT for source water signs to go up. Municipal separate storm sewer system, otherwise known as MS4. We do have, placards or signs going up around town. I found this, in New Hampshire literature, and, Terry worked on it. It had some little things it didn't need, and then this is the information. This is where it's free to the borough, doesn't cost anything to the borough, who they contact if they want to get a rain barrel.
Cool.
And, so I'm putting these up around town, different locations.
Cool.
Terry did an awesome job doing that annotation there. So I'm excited about that. If you think of the square footage of your roof, and you get 2 inches of rain, which we've done a number of times in the last month, that's one heck of a lot of water they're capturing. And particularly with people who are not happy with how much they're paying for sewer and water. Somebody washes their car and they say, that doesn't even go in the sewer. I water my garden, that doesn't even go in the sewer. Well, they can use the rain barrel and they can get free water.
Well, I'm not supposed to be washing their car though.
I know, but they do. But whatever they're using, wash their dog outside, whatever they're doing, yeah, they're not supposed to use any of it soap outside, but,
No, that's good.
so, hopefully, we'll get some interest going, and I want to get one put here at the borough, as I mentioned before, be a little bit.
I think that's cool, I think we could try and do that, I'm sure the guys would want to clean that.
Or it comes white, it comes white.
It comes white, and I was trying to decide whether to want a painted one or not, because white sticks out more, so it'd be eye-catching, and people would ask questions.
Could, do like the flag, the Topton flag, which has a white background, but you can still put the logo.
Simple, yeah,
Yeah.
simple.
That's a lot,
Just, yeah, cool.
that's all.
Thank you, Karen. Lynn?
So the only thing we discussed with, personnel, and there's a request for an exception for Scott Stelz's permission to carry unused vacation into 2024.
This was something that we just discussed, so.
So if everyone's okay with that, we have to make a motion to accept that. I'll make a motion that we allow him up to 2 weeks of
Of his
vacation to carry over into 2024.
There's a second,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Anything else, Mike?
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Kathy's not here tonight, you guys all have this in your packet, so sheet one at the top. This is, Kathy and trying to, we're kind of spitballing some things, and she's been coming up with an idea for an event next year, and we're gonna, this, I think I would look at it as just kind of like her ideas at the moment.
Right, that's what and apparently this is what we used to call the park bash, I guess.
Right, and then
Basing that on the date, okay.
And we had like the community day in the years past, or Topton Day, that's kind of where, and working with a couple other things, so. But you guys can see where, Kathy's been going with some of this stuff, and then the ideas she's been, bringing up, so. Does anybody have any thoughts on any of them? Or,
Usually all this gets put together in January.
right, yeah.
Timeframe. She won't be here unless she's.
Well, no, but we're, you know,
So she's just is up for discussion, is that what that's?
essentially, I suppose as we discuss the budget, there, you know, there's gonna be concerns there. So it's like I said, these are her ideas, and you guys can go away with, so when we have budget discussions regarding special events.
I didn't know where the free hot dogs were coming from.
Well, she may
No,
have, she may have.
Well, like I said, this is not necessarily like
You're just
a
thoughts.
document that has a certain structure to it, it's just kind of jotted down thoughts, I think.
Yeah.
Well, she or whoever is elected, I guess, to serve in that seat or takes over that committee next year would have to, you know, basically put this together. This is her thoughts,
Yeah,
some great ideas.
Yes. The pavilion will be in use part of the day, so I was wondering if that would be the perfect date or not.
Again, you know,
We
this is
could
just
reserve, that
kind
could be
of, I
reserved.
think,
That's not.
Should we, should we be reserving that or something?
I don't think we would need to reserve it tonight.
No,
But
this is
yeah, if this is where we're
ideas,
going,
okay,
obviously,
right?
when we plan these things, we'll make sure that it's moving aside for, I think that, you know, the date,
Don't rent it to people because we'd be using it, is what I was saying.
the date that she's looking at, I think corresponds somehow to the end of school.
Yes, and it was the same time we did that.
Right.
park bash.
So again, just, you know, take these and digest them and,
Actually, I think it correlates to the first day of summer,
oh.
cause it's 6/24. Yeah, they get out of
I
school
have
May 31st.
no idea when the children go to school or don't go to school.
They get out May
For some
31st.
reason.
The only one I'm in charge of anymore is 13, and I have no idea what she's doing ever. Alright.
That started because of the new park, so that's kind of why
Did she
the
give you anything, like any status updates for trunk or treat? Or
No, just general conversations, you know, working with the school has been going well, and
Yeah, the only thing that I'm aware of is, like, the school suggested it, and I guess the school is fine with us doing it. We didn't hear that they weren't, correct?
Correct.
So, that's all I know.
Well, I got questions about some of the logistics part of it, but I'll ask her directly. The church just asked, like, they weren't told anything about like where they're setting up or
I don't
anything
know if
like
she
that.
was either.
I think the general thought was in that ring.
That's what I said, but I'm gonna.
Where the
I'll-
buses go, because
I'll
then
just email her to
it leaves all the
confirm,
park,
'cause they
yeah, talk to
asked.
Kathy, but I believe that was the idea.
My mom's doing it, so she was like,
Gotcha.
And they
what
have,
time do we have to be there? Where do we have to park? And I'm like, I don't know.
they
I'm
have.
not running it, but I'll email Kathy.
They have a rain plan too. Apparently if it rains, we will go in.
Inside.
Yeah.
The
so-
vestibule.
Which is,
Yeah.
which is what I told her, but.
Which is fine if
I'll just
everybody
confirm
just has to
that.
take a
Okay.
table instead of all the decorations at least.
No, but it's a good point, you know, we should reach out to those who have gotten in touch to be a part of it and make sure that the
Everybody.
concept is, I mean, luckily, you know, the parade, it feels like Halloween's real close because the parade's this coming weekend,
This is
but
the
we
third-
still have,
Is this the
yeah.
31st?
Yeah,
it's the
27th.
27th.
Yeah, so this is still several weeks away to nail down
Right.
the small logistics.
Okay.
She also has on here tree lighting approval, didn't we have tree lighting already on the event schedule for the year?
Yeah, it's already been.
Okay, so
I
then,
guess she just has to talk about it, probably.
Yeah, okay, so I
We still
mean,
have
just
time in case
Yeah,
you need
yeah.
it.
keep it, everybody keep it in your
Several
minds, we're gonna light the tree and probably have people saying stuff.
So maybe, you know, table this until she's here.
School used to come down, of course used to do that.
Yeah. Alright, so, Monica then.
Yep, this is me. So, did everybody have a chance to review the list of bills and transfers as presented, and also the, account balances? Anybody have questions on any of that? No, then I make a motion to approve the bills, transfers, and the, report as presented.
Is there a second? Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Alright,
Am I supposed to read this? Okay. I have something else here. The proposals for auditing service. Two-sided. Stacy probably has more input.
I know that council asked, at the last meeting where it was just presented and discussed after opening them, if council has the ability to choose just based, or must just choose based on price, and the answer was no, it's also based on other information that is included in the proposal. But that's up to council whether to choose just based on price or.
if I remember from conversation though, Stacy, that your preferred company would be the lower priced one as well?
Yeah, it's actually a larger firm.
That's that selling costume.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the long, yes, yes.
So they're cheaper and,
More experienced,
More,
it seemed,
yeah.
but that was just my opinion from looking at it. Did you have an opinion, Monica?
For some reason, I like them two better, and I forget why that was. And it wasn't solely because of price, it was for something else that was indicated in there. And I don't remember anymore.
Their hourly rate maybe, or
Well,
their
that could be
location,
because
or?
they're actually, you know, they have that staff in there, so, you know, they don't really need someone with a whole lot of brain to do some stuff, at least they.
They have the number of employees based
Yeah.
on more numbers, more employees.
So that's up to everybody else.
To me, if we don't have any reason not to choose the lower one, and you have nothing bad to say about the lower one,
yeah,
then
that's
it's
kind of where I was
no-brainer.
too. I don't really know anything about either one of these companies specifically, so you came in like 4,000 below the other guy, and we hear good things about him. That's,
Is this significantly lower than the one that we use currently? Or is it pretty similar?
It's pretty similar.
I
It's
imagine
all
they all
high, it's
probably
all
are,
high,
yeah.
it's all expensive, I'm sorry to say, but
Yeah.
it's necessary.
So we're
Really,
agreeing to
a check
3
balance.
year agreement with them, they're giving us 3 years worth of costs, is that?
That is correct, for both, the borough audit as well as the tax collector audit. And then their hourly rate would be used for technical assistance throughout the year, if it's complicated and not just a straightforward, simple question.
We need a motion.
I make a motion, we'll go with, Lenkowski Axelrod for the auditing firm starting 2024.
Or fiscal year 2023 in 2024.
Oh, okay, okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you, and that's all I have for me.
Alright, I wanted to talk about the parade just a little bit, you know, and this year was, got to be a part of the meetings and hear things behind the back, and then just wanted to kind of throw it out there that it's getting harder and harder to put it on every year, they're saying, and then, not exaggerating, I mean, we all sat here and approved, and putting forth a little bit of money to look for extra fire police. They wanted 14, we've gotten 4. And one of the biggest issues is everybody wants to be in the parade, nobody wants to help out and things like that. So, just, you know, as as people talk to you about the parade and stuff, you know, remind them that it takes a lot to put it forth, and if we wanna keep having it, need some people who wanna do some work other than just on that night, you know what I mean, and
Some of that, do you want to happen, what almost happened with King Frost?
I was just ready to say that.
Right,
It took
right.
them to say, sorry, didn't have enough people, and then all of a sudden, ooh.
People and money came forward.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and they certainly weren't putting it in those terms at all, but
Yeah.
just, you know, as we wrapped up everything and we were all just talking about how it was proof, man, you know, it's getting harder to find people, and it's getting harder to, you know, they didn't have any problem getting fire trucks that wanna show up and be in the parade, but fire police to come work the parade,
Yeah.
so. And hopefully, you know, and we talked about in ways of the support role, the borough can do a little bit more, and maybe not monetarily, but just helping spread the word, helping organize things, helping get those things to put these on, you know, because TCOC works real hard, and so does our first responders in town and such to make it happen, so.
What's their budget this year? It's usually like 16 or.
They didn't let us know.
I don't know,
Did we talk
yeah,
about that?
yeah, we weren't really talking about that. That probably was in a meeting before I was there, and by the time I got there, we were just talking about logistics of the day and lots about disaster channels and things like that.
So the fire police are the folks that stand at the barricades and
Yeah.
make sure that they're not moved, so cars can go through the parade route.
Yeah, that's
while
another
the
thing.
parade is still going on.
We kind of
So
have
that's
to,
where we're
TCOC relies upon the people who live in those areas to,
Yeah.
you know, if it, at the very least, give somebody a call, let them know if a barrier was moved and people are bringing cars through and stuff like that, especially as the parade passes by wherever you're at, you know, and people start to filter out because for them it's over for the most part, you know, that's when nobody's come and collected the barricades yet, but somebody wants to go that way through town, and there's still people in the streets and still people walking around and kids and stuff, so. Just keep it on your minds, and it takes a lot to put one of these on, and it's, you know, but it is a lot of fun. The other thing I wanted to talk about is our quality of life process. And we've been kind of kicking around the idea, we spoke to Elaine and Michelle and Eric about, these things, it's really meant to be a punishment for either flagrant or repeat offenders, you know, it's not meant to go around and nitpick everybody, and then, you know, sometimes you just had a bad week and you didn't feel like mowing your lawn or whatever, you know. So kind of toning down those first interactions with some sort of a door hanger or a card that just says, hey, we got a complaint, could you please take care of it? You know, and then from there we could go into a more formal process of things. Flip side of that is I think we might have to be, you know, put in some stricter things on the backside for people who just aren't listening and don't care about our stupid little fee or whatever it is. Because we deal with this, some properties, it's the same ones over and over and over again, you know, and for different things, you know, and sometimes it's not property owner, but we've been recently having problems with what I would consider not a very great property management company who's not attending to, you know, it's very clear that the buildings need more garbage truck visits, and they're not doing that, so every month we keep having to call and say, hey, look, looks like this again, you know. And maybe some stricter punishments on that. And we don't have to make any decisions about that right now, other than how do you guys feel about going in that direction?
I think for the smaller stuff, an informal process is better. I mean, like you and I had talked about a couple of the ones that were reported that Eric picked up, we just went and talked to them, they took care of it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was real easy for,
Yeah.
for,
You're just like, hey, can you trim back your bush? And he went out the next day and went,
Yeah, if you have contact information, that's the hardest thing. You don't
Right,
have-
but that's why we were talking about some
Yeah.
sort of a card or a door hanger or
I
something
think
like that.
anything that's a safety, like urgent matter, that's different.
Okay,
It's something
I agree
that's
with that.
really like if a bush is in the sidewalk, that's
I agree with
kind of
that.
safety, but not really. It's not like it's ice that's 3 inches thick that someone's gonna get hurt on immediately.
honestly, the couple that I got were very nitpicky, I mean.
Yeah.
I think-
So how are you
Was
addressing
one
them
branch.
now? What changed? I didn't quite understand how you're doing them now versus how it was.
No, it's the same way. It just seems,
Just,
just
I think you're saying
reevaluate.
instead of like a formal nasty gram, like, you know.
Like we, right now, we're
just
immediately going
nice
to,
way
there's a
to-
formal complaint and processing it and, you know, all of that whole thing, like you were doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm saying,
He's saying
let's reevaluate it
going
and
forward.
maybe,
Oh,
Tony
okay,
back
I
a
thought
little
you did something different already, okay.
no.
And you can, right, you can have a step in there for a courtesy letter like you do with most zoning or property maintenance violations that aren't emergencies. So
Right.
you can have that step before you go to a quality of life ticket, just like before you would go to a notice of violation. When I was looking at the procedure, we last amended the ordinance as a whole in 2021, other than minor amendments regarding motor vehicles and snow shoveling. So we can continue to look at the property maintenance code and the quality of life enforcement sections.
So we can just add like language that we can send a notice
Right, that
as
we
a courtesy.
That we reserve the right prior to, it's not an obligation to, because there needs to be some discretion, because.
Yes.
I agree, you're right, it's a very good point to bring up something that's
Yeah.
a safety,
Right,
you know,
right, we
issue.
gave the example of ice that's 3 inches thick.
Or that branch that's hanging that's gonna fall on somebody
Right,
in the alley,
right.
or a big tree.
Yeah, trees are actually a big subject of contention with that kind of thing, I guess because of the emerald ash borer disease or whatever the
Yeah.
problem is, ash trees are. I'm
Gone.
noticing that in a lot of places that it's becoming a bigger and bigger concern, and it can affect both the municipality and the property owner if there's an injury. And it also gets very emotional because of what happened in a township not too far away, where they were becoming overzealous about enforcement on trees.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, you know, we're not making any official movements tonight or anything like that, I just wanted to start the discussion and see if you guys have
Maybe
any
we
ideas
should
on it.
just make a motion to amend, you know, for maybe the next meeting, make an amendment to what Joe mentioned, where we could put in just a little blurb about.
We don't actually have that form that gets sent out, you've been sending out the first time. There's no place that shows that form in the ordinance or anything. Doesn't say it has to be that, it could be a letter instead, right?
What's
Send
the
a
difference
postcard.
between a letter and what we're doing?
Well, we were specifically talking about, you know, the process, we have to go out, we have to take pictures and do things. If you go out, you see it's a violation, it's real quick, right on a card, hey, we got a violation, you need to cut your grass and just slip it in the door or whatever, and
okay.
that's the first contact, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Instead of, there is no come back, you know, put in the paperwork, do the thing, look up the property with GIS, all that stuff, you know, it's just a quick, hey, can you take care of that?
Okay.
And if they don't, then we go to that step as we've been doing.
Right, and for the informal stuff, because it's not mandatory, you don't even have to have it in the ordinance, you can just have an informal procedure to give a courtesy notice first, because it doesn't have any legal force and effect, and the more I think about it, the more I don't want to put in a step that somebody could argue is mandatory, you didn't give me my courtesy notice first.
This is true.
So I would
This
be
is
somewhat
true.
careful, but
Because yes, then I think it is ultimately up to the quality of life officer at that moment, or whatever you wanna call that position, to make their best judgment on, look, should I just leave this guy a card, or, hey,
I
this is
think
a problem.
I think that the role of the quality of life committee, here on council, should just be to inform the office, that first to confirm it's an issue, and they can send out a postcard and just, you know, confirm the address is correct of the.
I'm trying to find honestly a balance between that and what we were doing previous to this year.
Because there has to be a record that we're sending something to someone.
Not if it's not, it doesn't come with a punishment, or it
No,
doesn't,
I'm just
that's
saying
why I'm
that-
saying
that
this
now
step
it's a
would be.
habitual, like, it has.
There
Right.
is law.
Right, but that's what I mean, I think having a softer touch in the front,
Yeah,
available to us,
absolutely.
is a good idea.
You know, some of them, when you don't, then they finally keep up with doing stuff and don't get any.
Yeah.
Most people, if they get a letter or a postcard or a door hanger from a code official or an enforcement officer, are mortified and fix the problem right away. It's just the hardcore of a few people that are a problem.
So then at some point, we just have to look at the punishment side for those habitual offenders and
Right,
address that.
make it-
Right, and because that was the other part of my thought, you know what I mean, is what are we doing on the back end to
Right.
really make it, you know,
Make it stick and stick.
yeah, make it right,
Right.
exactly.
Cause some, yeah, apparently think it's funny, but.
Yeah, it should not be a cost of doing business.
And, you know, I think that's gonna come into play, especially for people, landlords who are using property management companies, because if your management company is allowing something to go on where you're now getting a more considerable fine for, you're gonna either raise the point with them or find a new property management company, you know what I mean?
Great.
All right, thank you, that's all I have for tonight. So Eric.
All right, first, the T-ball with the ball. I talked with Amy Schumann last week. They are still getting numbers back from their vendors and seeing, so they can put something together for us, so they'd like to table it until next month, just to make sure they got all their I's dotted and T's crossed before they come to us. They didn't get everything back as fast as they thought they would. With the pool parking and demolition, Charlie, Ethan, Stacy and I had a meeting last Monday?
Friday.
Last Friday, when I fell asleep.
Friday.
Yeah.
And, Charlie, we're gonna look into
They're working on it, they hope to have it this week for you.
some rough numbers and things like that, and procedure, I guess.
General concept we were talking about was looking at how much money is in that fund at the moment and trying to stay at about 50-60% of that for the cost of, you know, kind of wiping the slate clean in this area. And then hopefully, if council feels we should go this way, putting a lot of what's left back on what we owe on the debt, so that we can lower the debt.
So the key piece of what we have to do in this communication, and I'll say it here because Joan will appreciate and have to go, is we have to make sure we do our due diligence in warning you because of the forensics report we have and,
Sure.
and the potential. There's no known issue, but there's potential issues, so we need to get that there so you can accept that. If we don't do any more exploration or remediation, and there's always a chance we'll find something.
Yeah.
When we go to do any kind of work, so.
Right.
We are doing a little bit of that to make sure we communicate directly with you on that, so.
The truck on Home Street are just, I know it's been a subject the past couple meetings. I actually found an ordinance, Stacy and I were talking about this before the meeting, that covers the parking, but there are also things that need to be done before we can do anything about it. So LTAP, is that?
Yeah, I have his email.
I have to contact them, do a little formal, paperwork and I won't say it, but getting them to agree with what we want and then signage put up saying, you know, you can't park here. If you look in the ordinances, yeah.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah, would you like to see, I'll pass it around.
He forgot his glasses.
It's chapter, is it 7?
I can't read it, I'm sorry, my,
I think we know that.
It's like, I think it's this one in front of me here.
Yeah.
Sir, you read
But
it.
essentially, the current ordinance says that you can't park a vehicle that weighs more than 5,000 pounds, one that reduces the lane of travel below 18
Right.
feet wide, or is over a certain length.
over 20
Yeah,
Foot
but
length.
there has to be signage there in order to enforce it, and there isn't. So we have to go through
See-
LTAP to make sure that we can put the sign up to enforce our own ordinance.
Thank you, honey.
Okay.
You're welcome.
See, I mean,
What
that-
chapter you were gonna say?
my understanding is that would be
71.
Pennsylvania law, that you can't impede traffic to a way that makes it dangerous, you know what I mean? So that's why I didn't understand why we couldn't enforce anything like that in the first place, because it should be able to, it pushes you out over the yellow line. If you were to
Right.
cross the yellow line on your driver's test, you
Right.
fail, because you just did something
The
dangerous.
ordinance says at 18 feet,
Well, the roads are,
but it says you have to
32
have
to
a sign up to
36.
enforce it.
Yes, you can enforce
The
it without
18
signs.
feet, that's vehicle code for Pennsylvania.
right,
You don't have to have
that's why
signage.
you don't have to have signage for
Why
state law.
can't, why don't we have the authority to put a sign in our own street?
Because you have to,
You can,
you have to do it their way or it's not enforceable.
It's a PennDOT road.
Let's say it is a PennDOT road.
Oh, it's PennDOT road.
Depend on where
That makes more sense, yeah.
Well, I
But
guess
if
the
it's a
question
state
is,
law,
yeah, I guess the question is if the 18-foot thing is a Pennsylvania law, how do we enforce it? Do we have to go out there with a tape measure and take pictures and then
It's
who?
police would be
Well,
taking,
we
you know.
right.
Right, the police enforce the vehicle.
well, they should know that law, huh?
I gave that to,
They said that it would have to be in an ordinance, but every time I read everything in the state,
That's in the state law.
Right,
Yeah.
but, well, it's probably both the state law and
And one of our
in the
ordinances.
ordinances, so it's two methods of enforcement, right?
I think today, I mean, this right here reads like that is all you need. Because,
Right,
Well, they all read that way, but then when you get to the bottom, it says you can only enforce it
It's fun,
with
right?
signs. Yeah.
Right, but it's enforcement of the state law, but there's also, many municipalities have an ordinance against large commercial vehicles parking in the street or parking in the street for a very long,
And we
Which
do.
is what's in there.
also, to be
So
clear,
we don't
have
need new
to,
ordinance.
we don't have to comply with LTAP, they just would
help us.
tell you what you need to do to make this happen, you know what I mean? They're a free resource, basically, so.
Or if we were basing it on state law, would that mean it would be the Pennsylvania State Police who would have to issue a citation?
No,
local
it's
police.
any
Local police, right,
police.
I guess what I'm bringing up is, I don't think we should have to do anything to enforce it.
So I think, yeah, then a conversation with Dale is probably the first step.
I know he was, I actually told him about it.
Okay.
I didn't show him that
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of our conversation before the meeting. The signage.
So then instead of reaching out to LTAP, I'd reach out to Dale first and say specifically,
seen that
like,
too.
isn't this something that we could cover this way? And he'll
I
know
would
more,
hope.
but you know, I mean, I'm just thinking, the common sense would say this, but he'll know exactly what he can and can't enforce, you know, so. And then next step would be LTAP to tell you what do we have to do, because I don't think, I think you can restrict this in ways that is not gonna require signage in specific spots, because that's really not what we're talking about here. You know, this particular truck may have triggered the concept,
Right.
but if you block it just at this one spot because of this one truck, you move the truck around the corner, and now we gotta block it there too, and we gotta put a sign there too, and we gotta put a sign everywhere. We need to figure out a way that you cannot park a vehicle like this on our roads, because they're just not big enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're pushing people off to the side of the road. Dude, you're looking out your front window and you're seeing it happen all day. You know, and you're not doing anything about it.
Well, I actually
So-
had a couple people from the fire company complain because.
Yeah, no, I mean,
they had
that's
to
the
go
thing.
down home and couldn't even get past them.
I don't know when I'm coming up home when a 63-foot trailer needs to come down home, and then we're just sitting there, both of us looking at each other going,
Yep.
I guess you go, because I lose that battle, but, you know. So but we need to come up with a way that across the borough, this is the
I'll
rule.
talk to,
Yeah.
oh, my wife will send an email.
I got it.
So, I only have one more thing, it's not on my agenda, and it was a question for Charlie. Have you heard from when they're gonna finish Hall Street?
No, I have not, I will do
Because, we're getting close to winter time here, it'd be nice to have it sealed off and some markings done.
Especially the crosswalks that our staff have to paint for those schools that are bi-color.
Can they do that without any sealing?
We
They
put-
don't want the contractor from UGI
to
on
go
doing
over it.
their, go over their work that they've just done. Our guys, you know, only have so much time.
Pink cost.
Pain costs money too.
Oh, yes, and one more thing. At that same meeting, that we had with Ethan, Stacy, and Charlie, and myself, we talked about this at the last meeting a little bit, about logging up on our property up here. And if I'm right, Charlie, if we would hire a forester to basically do all the work, start to finish, they would take a percentage of it, it wouldn't cost us anything out of pocket, it's one of the options we could choose.
So the last two that I've been part of, I haven't been part of it, because they've gone out for services for a professional forester, you do, because the number's gonna be high enough. But then that forester, you've got two options on the contract with them. You can pay them a set fee, or you pay them a percentage of the harvest. And that's how, and they will manage the whole sale of the wood.
They're essentially a broker.
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna bid it out, they're gonna give that to you, you still get to, agree that makes sense for you going ahead forward, so it still works that way, but you don't have to pay me, you're gonna deal directly with the
I just worked
forester.
with a forestry broker, recently with a property to get an appraisal, to forest responsibly a property that had 35 acres worth of woods. And he came up with an estimated value of the trees, only the trees that he could take, about, I think it was like $133,000. So there's depending on the trees and access to them, so.
Trees up there.
So.
And we're talking about, what, 180 acres?
Right,
Yeah.
so I'm
68
just saying it could be a
versus
substantial amount, we might wanna get it appraised before we decide on the
Well,
percentage.
that's-
It might
so
be
his-
cheaper
his-
to get with a set fee.
Yeah, his steps would be that, he's gonna, I think they're all now that I know about, but, they do that, they go through and provide you an assessment of it, and.
Elaine, I would imagine it's
Yeah.
much like real estate, you know, the process of meeting a new client kind of thing.
And they GPS, you know.
Yep.
do a
They do
grid-
everything.
They do a grid of letting you know exactly which trees and
They
how
mark them.
many and.
Yeah, my
it's-
brother-in-law
it's
has done
quite-
in the last few
quite
years too,
substan-
it's.
you know, and the cost to get an appraisal is pretty minimal.
St.
Yeah.
Lawrence has also done that and it's gone well for them.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, there's things to iron out, of course, and things to discuss, but I think the concept is a no-brainer.
I'm gonna get Eric some names of foresters and can talk and see, so they'll educate you a little bit and go through, so.
We'll test his degree.
Yeah, I mean, he has a little expertise. Yeah, I know,
He told me.
And if we do decide to go that way, I think we should designate that money towards certain things. One of them being our new well, if possible.
Yeah, I think there's potential.
Not just throw it into a general account and let's use it for certain things that we know we got some big hitters coming up. If we can put it toward it.
Yeah, I think so too, I think, you know, my, overall, I'm kind of looking at things like we need to reduce our debt and become more self-reliant.
Absolutely.
And I think all of these things, they may not be super flashy, but they're the smart thing to do.
It's gonna help our woods up here too.
Yeah, I mean, it's, that's why I say across the board, this is like a
It's
no-brainer.
been a long time since they did that.
Yeah,
With the degrees.
alright. Anything else, Eric?
That's it, sorry, I went over.
No, it's okay, thank you.
There's a lot of things.
Alright, Michelle, you're up.
The accounts receivable report is relatively unremarkable. They had 22 door postings, but no shut-offs this quarter. So the postings were kind of high, but we didn't shut anything off, so that's good. There's a couple of payment plans. None of the accrual accounts are over $1,000, so. We did have those, Stacy sent that email out wanting to know how we were treating any monies what do I do with it? I don't know what I do with it. Any monies that were sitting on the account, like if they had any, yes. How we wanna treat all non-principal amounts due on any account at the end of the last billing cycle. Is it a previous balance due at the start of the October billing cycle? So we have to let them know how we want them to treat it. I'm assuming you're asking to know whether there's interest on it, is that why?
Whether you consider that principal now, or whether you expect it to be tracked as late fees, finance charges, etc. Like, okay, someone had a late fee and didn't pay it, but paid everything else, and on October 25th, there's $25 on the account past, previous balance. How would you like us to treat that?
Hard to see it on the principal.
Yeah, I would
I'd
think.
like to see it just as a late fee,
I would just
consider
like to
a
see
late
it as a
fee,
late fee, yeah.
and just let it keep going as a late fee at some point.
Well, the complication with that though is that we've said the late fee is not gonna trigger a shut off. If you let it go now 2 billing cycles, that's not a late
Or
fee
even
anymore,
more.
that's an ignored
I was
debt.
just gonna ask how long, you're right,
Yeah.
how long
Now, the hope is that that won't happen because when we redid the bills, it will reflect in the total. But we probably should tell them how we want it handled, so they know, just in case somebody.
What would be part of the total that would have to be paid for the next, I shouldn't accrue interest on it, it should be like if the bill's.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're
I
saying.
mean, if the bill's $200 that they owe next quarter in water, plus the
I do see what
$25
you're saying,
they
yeah.
have to pay $225.
So then,
Yeah, but that's only if they're late. So if they paid on time, there's no interest.
yeah, that's true, I mean, again, we keep coming back to, we're working very hard to protect the people who are not paying their bills. I'm kind of overdoing that, I guess, I don't really care
I mean,
anymore. It's just
we lowered
whatever
the
is
interest, we
easiest for you
lowered
guys.
the.
And we finally
fees.
got to the point where we have 0 balances for the most part.
Yeah.
Otherwise you get turned off
Yeah.
at the beginning of the next billing cycle.
So they could.
So then, yeah, I'm back to what Eric was saying, let's just roll it into the principal. Pay your
Yeah,
bills.
because you know what, they could easily forget about that and not realize it.
Like anybody on YouTube, pay your bill.
Plus it limits
Statement.
it to that one bill. You know what I
It'll be in
mean?
the next
There's
bill.
not,
Right.
right, it's not like they can keep doing it.
No, it would have to be part of the next bill.
Exactly.
Right.
Which would be,
Because it is part of the next bill, they
right,
have to
but it would be included with that principal amount.
Yes.
Yeah. it would have to.
And like, pay your bill. It's a very simple
Yeah,
message.
Sounds like we're in
Exactly.
consensus, anybody have anything?
So do you wanna revise the motion, do you just wanna direct us?
I
You
think-
would have to revise, you'd have to make a new motion.
Because as Terry pointed out, the policy says that any monies collected in the next, any monies collected are applied to the oldest first. Oldest, not principal, not late fees, not finance charges, just oldest. So that's the policy, and now council made a just a motion.
It would just be a motion, because when you're talking about a matter of policy, it doesn't have to be done by ordinance, but it would be by motion. I mean, generally, you apply to the oldest debt first, but this clarifies that it's to principal as opposed to interest or late fee.
So we need that motion.
I'll make that motion however we're supposed to word that.
Well, you guys,
Yeah. Please
you must word it, I'm sorry.
Okay, we need a motion to, apply monies on account, to principal.
Late fees account?
Yeah, I guess the late fees.
Yeah.
Any money's owed, right?
Any late fees, monies?
Everything.
Right.
Principal.
Yeah, apply.
Yeah,
will
any
be
money left
applied
in the
to-
account will be applied to the principal of the
moving
next.
forward.
Yeah,
Right.
moving forward, okay,
I like that motion, I'll make it.
okay, and a second? All in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Listen to YouTube.
Maybe somebody can send me that in writing. I don't know. I'll try.
Any monies owed would become principal.
Applied
Applied principal.
Applied.
Would not become principal.
No, it would be applied to it. So it would become principal.
That's not what was said.
Okay.
What was said was leaving the late fee as a late fee and wouldn't have interest on it, am I right?
No, that's what we just said, we're
That's
put
what
it
it
into the
is.
principal.
Right,
We're
well,
applying it towards the principal, so that if it becomes principal, it has to be paid the next billing cycle.
Correct.
Right.
It's not a late fee anymore. Is that clear?
Well, it's still a late fee,
no, you just made it principal.
We transferred it over to the current principal.
Yeah, once the next billing cycle.
Once the next
comes up,
billing
It
it's-
has to show though that percentage on the, can you make that happen on the,
Why-
it
why-
shows that
No, it
that's.
doesn't have to show that, they didn't pay the bill. We are wasting so much time on this. We just passed it, it's gonna become principal, okay, so the next time you get your bill, whatever the number on it, pay it.
Alright, as far as the water and sewer rates for 2024, still a work in progress. It does look like, based on some quick calculations on where we are currently, that will be about 100,000 short on the sewer and 170 short on the water. That's assuming that we hit the budget amounts for expenses. But we'll have to see.
But we have a better, at least Stacy was able to compile the numbers on what we've come up short in the past few years, so we can figure out a general idea of what we're talking about and how we can rebalance the rates to.
Did we not get a grant we were expecting to get or something? Because we raised rates. We said we'd take the chance, we won't raise it as much as we probably should because we're gonna get this grant, we hope. So then I'm shocked that we're gonna be so much short.
The grant
No,
that we
that's
were
just-
waiting on was for the pump station.
Yeah.
We have it, no, we're.
Yeah, that's-
we're
that was
only
when
at-
we took the
We
gap.
had 2 out for water line projects.
Yeah.
And 1 was rejected and we're still waiting on that.
Right.
But the money we were gambling on.
That's just based on the
Was
budget
Washington
amount.
Street.
Was
for the
Washington Street.
expenses.
The problem was that if we didn't get the grant, we were also going to have to spend that 260,000 or whatever
Yes.
it is.
Plus, we
Because
have
it needed to
spent
be
some
replaced whether
water,
we got the
yeah,
grant or
we've
not.
spent some money towards the well for engineering and stuff that was not in the budget. So, we're gonna have to see, I mean, it's hard to guesstimate where we're gonna be, because we don't, I mean, like, the money for the Washington Street pump station isn't going to go out the door in 2023, it's not gonna go out the door till 2024, and it's in the 2023 budget. So how far are we actually gonna be a part, I don't know, but we'll have to carry, that money is still needed, so.
I also don't know that we're gonna fix this in 1 year.
No,
You know
we're
what I
not
mean,
going.
like, we're gonna get a step ahead, hopefully a few steps ahead this year, you know what I mean?
Well,
And
like
get
I
back on
said,
track, but
once that sewer loan, it's 24 and 20, I think it gets paid off in 26. Yeah, I think it's 24 and 25 is the full
right.
brunt of the sewer loan, and then in 26, it's like half of what it was. So it's really just the next 2 years
Right,
is
and
the
then when we
biggest
come out,
problem on the sewer side.
and if we can get closer on that side and get these things working better now, when we come out clear of that debt, we will be, and, you know, I mean, then you have.
Hopefully we
I
have
mean,
some
I'm gonna-
money away.
We have a surplus of money, it's just gonna go somewhere else, but, you know, we'll figure
Well,
out.
hopefully we can then do some actual capital plan and like.
See, the problem is that right now we are so dependent on grants to do anything, you know? And we have trouble even getting the grants because we don't have the funds to match what the grant is offering, you know what I mean? So we're out of contention for a lot of these free money situations in the first place.
Yeah.
We need to get ourselves to a much better financial position to be able to, hey, that pipe broke. We don't have to call for a grant for that one project because we can pay for that. A well is gonna be something that Topton's always looking for grants for
Right.
and loans for and things like that, because we're never gonna have cash flow like that, but we need to be more liquid.
I tried to do a little better job of communicating with Stacy, and this year, when I sent her projections for next year, I included all those projects that we're looking at.
Mhm.
So the number's gonna be high, but that's part of what you'll have to, about hitting an engineer's report.
Sure.
But part of what you'll need to consider going forward is, when do you want to expend funds?
Right.
Michelle, would you mind repeating the shortages you were looking at for water and for sewer?
100,000 sewer, 170,000 water,
Thank you,
but it's just a guesstimate.
thank you.
That's all I have for my committee. Do you want me just to do hometown heroes quick?
Sure.
So we have 90 banners up currently. There's 10 more, that are up at the school right now getting scanned and ready to be ordered. There are still some spots open on Franklin. I don't know if it's enough for this order of 10 that we're about to order. So I don't know if we wanna consider approving at least one additional, cause they did do center's done. So the only thing left that's approved is what's left of Franklin.
Okay, oh, you're saying we're down to less than 10 poles left? What do you think?
Potentially, it's gonna be close.
Any ideas on where else would be?
My next thought would be high. A lot of people use it to cut off
Yeah.
between the two,
Yeah.
you know.
It has a lot of utility poles and sure, that's good to me. We need a motion or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we'd be looking to, for a motion to approve expanding the Hometown Heroes onto High Street.
We'll make that motion.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, cool.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Charlie?
So, a couple of things in addition to what's on the report and summary. So we had a blip again with DRBC on data. Alex was able to clear that up, thank you. We're doing checks to make sure we don't have that problem next year. They came back with a notice of violation, but we had the data, so that cleared that notice of violation up. Or Alex had the data, so that cleared the violation up. For your November meeting, I anticipate having Washington Street, the Public Works co-stars, roof co-stars ready for you, to award, so we can move with those. The NPDS notice of intent, that should be to the borough office tomorrow for review. That's due by November 1st to DEP. We'll also this week have the perennial stream work that you guys had authorized when we got the product back from our surveyors. They've done a beautiful job with the boundary survey. We thought they were the proposal had originally been for two parts, boundary and topo. And the challenge we ended up with was the boundary portion just gives us the property lines. So Michelle's using Christine is using GIS to get the stream onto the boundary map. So we've got that. It's going through one round of QC to make sure it lines up, and that'll be the product for you for that. Then we can have some discussions about the stream does some meandering outside of, let's say, public rights of way, and so it does go onto private property. CFA, who awards the grants, did do some LSA awards, but they have not done small water and sewer, so they delayed a meeting. I haven't heard anything else other than that. Their next scheduled meeting is 11/21. Brian was on vacation, so I don't have a date for the Oak Alley project stuff to you. I will get that. I also expect in November to get you a report on the well for the end of these stages. And then that's one of the things we need to talk about how far you want to go in. If you look at that, the task 5 pump tests, that's where we will know whether the hole in the ground is viable and good. That's also at $100,000. Again, So that's one of the reasons that stays on here is you'll expend it that much. We need your authorization of how far you wanna go, and then of course, there's the construction stuff, so. And once we've done the pump test, if that proves out, it'll be a really good grant candidate for you. And we shouldn't have problems with that, the condition going away that makes it acceptable, proving that it proves acceptable at that point in time. Well, also at that point, that construction number, I should have a big asterisk by it, that's just the well. And line to the edge of town, that doesn't include any treatment other than chlorination at that point. So if it requires anything, that cost would be out, that's part of why we need to get through the pump test. So I'm gonna keep saying things like that so that, you know, I could have put a really big number there, but.
So that we don't go, wait, you said.
That's not, so those are some, as you're getting into the budget, some things you'll wanna look at, or all those grant programs have costs with them. The other challenge with all the grants is that many of them are now at 5 to 7% for engineering. We can't do design, bidding, and construction oversight for 5 to 7% on most things. Bidding in and of itself, even with pen bid now, is still about $4,000 to get through, regardless of the project size. So that's one of the reasons for your facilities roof, we're looking at co-stars, is we don't have to expend any of those monies for you. So it does a little bit of slowness, but that is a co-starsable option. And so that's why we're looking at that, is it gets rid of about 15,000 total potentially for us.
The grant for the well that we would go after, do we have any idea what that percentage is?
The match, so all the programs are different. In general, the higher the match, probably the better chance you have of getting this amount of money. What we're seeing with the LSA projects, now there are exceptions, but their sweet spot seems to be in the $100,000 range for the project, because there's so many applicants.
And that $100,000 that we've already spent, does that count as monies that would have been part of this
No,
project?
so the problem is monies already expended are not considered a match.
Because it's not like you started the project already.
Yeah, and the problem for them is they really don't like funding that upfront stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's at risk.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's a catch-22 for you.
I just meant, I've come to understand those matches are largely like they're not largely, but they're partly at least, how much are you into this?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you're gonna put up money, then we figure you're gonna use our grant money well, so we'll give it to you. You know what I mean? They could easily give you the $20,000 they ask you to spend on engineering or whatever if you're asking for 200, but they don't. They wanna see you put some skin in the game.
They do, but like the LSA program doesn't have a mandatory match.
Right.
But the small water and sewer did, and any of the USDA or PINVEST means.
No, I just meant, we spent $100,000 on this project. You think that shows we got skin in the game, right?
I wish it was that.
Oh, we can't change that here, but.
No, it is a challenge going through, especially for you guys. And we did get in the grant application to the LSA program for the chlorination contact tank at the wastewater plant, and that is in your information I sent you on how that lined up. Yep, the MS4 report was submitted on time to DEP. I think that's all I have now.
All right.
And to BIA's credit, they are currently working on the grant application for the ambulance.
Yes. Larry's doing that.
Anything from the ambulance board?
There you go. Our meeting's on Thursday.
I feel like that happens all the time, right? Like
Yes.
We meet and you don't have much to talk about because you're like, well, we're meeting like 3 days.
Yeah, and the so we're covering for Kutztown.
Right.
Second building, they have moved into the, just the Macedonia lease where they are.
Okay.
That was, however you wanna say, they're behind Burger King. They have part of that. That is probably the last that I know of from our last meeting.
Okay.
There's still meetings with Maxatawny and Kutztown, although they could have had them in between, I don't know, so.
From what you know though, everything's going well for that.
Yeah,
They're not,
it
you
is,
know, okay.
and they, I mean, they can, you know, obviously use more staff, but they are doing okay.
Sure.
With what they have for both us, Maxatawny, Kutztown, Rockland.
They mobilized tonight.
Hmm?
Long Swamp Fire, Topton Fire, and the Topton Ambulance. I had to move to the side of the road for all
I think they were right out, yeah, there was a structure fire out here.
of them. Well, they went to Long Swamp,
Oh, they went that way. Yeah.
Long Swamp and South. So we're moving.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I had something in old business I wanted to mention.
Sure.
Now?
is there
I'm
anything
done,
else? Okay.
yeah, I might have more, again, after Thursday, but everything's going okay.
Well, I had mentioned that, I wanted us to look into some, time clock, software, and Stacy, you said you're looking into some, trying to change, QuickBooks. I don't know if you're considering that software program for your accounting, but they have an add-on called Timesheet, which will do everything we need for people to clock in, and also they can put in their, you know, what tasks they're doing and how many units of time they're using towards each task, so we can keep track of how much time everyone's spending doing all their things, which would really help try to streamline budgeting, so you know how much time and money it's costing for each department and so forth. So I don't know if that's one of the ones you're looking at?
Could be after we receive the next quote,
Okay.
the
Okay, well,
CoStarz quote.
I'm sure a lot of those softwares probably have similar things that you can
I've
add
been
in.
looking into several, and I'm basically just trying to get down to like maybe 2 or 3 I can recommend that Stacy look into to see what will work with your office, you know, with your staff, so that would be one of them.
So is it an app-based or, internet website-based?
It
where
actually
an
can be,
employee
well,
gets on?
QuickBooks can be either, you can purchase the software and load it, or you can be a subscription, have it be part of just your monthly expense, they charge you a fee, and this is just an add-on to what they currently have. It works very well. I actually interviewed someone that is currently using it, and it seems pretty seamless and easy to use.
We had mentioned QuickBooks
Yeah, yeah.
too.
But
Yeah.
you'd have to look into what works best for your office. I don't wanna tell you what to do, I'm just saying that's
It
one.
already, no, it's good to know because it already come up as
And
an
I'll see if
option.
there's maybe 2 others, but I'd like to get, if possible, something put into place, I don't know, for the first of the year, so we can, I don't know if that's possible, that you could transition, that's not too far away. For you to transition into a new
Well,
program.
and each and every employee then to transition
I think
using an
it-
application or a website.
Right,
Probably, something to bring up with the, software providers.
well, that's, you know, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
So I'd like to get
Good idea.
something, I can send you a couple of short ones I looked into, but really you have to go and take a look at them and see what works best for you and what's easy for you and your staff. I'm just kind of doing a little preliminary research to see what we can put in place, but you have to decide what works best for you and everyone that, most of these are they appear to be very easily accessible on your phone. People can check in from, they're at the water plant or wherever, they can start their day, clock in, and it records them starting and ending their day, and they can easily just plug in what they're doing, so that we have, if you're doing road repair, if you're doing, you know, lawn maintenance, you just kind of push a certain tab and it will autofill the spaces that you're spending 2 hours at this and an hour at that.
Yeah, you can preload all the work tasks in there.
Gentlemen, I just have
Yeah.
then a policy question, because currently the, employee handbook contains the current timesheet that we're using. Because that's an attachment that was approved by a committee and then council, with the new, format for payroll and then time management and time tracking need to be
It would,
approved by council?
it would be something that would be approved by council, but it also would come up in the current collective bargaining
Okay.
negotiations as a term or condition of employment.
Okay, all right.
But that's not gonna happen till later.
Right, that's not gonna happen until later, and, by then it will probably be in place or be close to being in place. But you still have the prerogative to track employee time and keep accurate records. That's a managerial prerogative anyway, but as far as the methodology of it, that would be something that would be approved by council and probably incorporated into the collective bargaining agreement
And the budget.
and the budget, yes.
Is that something we could put, in our next meeting to, approve to do? So that we can get primed for the, like, you know, so we can get something in place for the beginning of 2024?
So would you like that at the budget presentation meeting or the November 1st meeting of the month?
I'm asking you, what do you think?
Well, it's up to council because this is a drastic change from what we do now.
So you know when you're
Because we
supposed to
only
get
do a
your
pay
quote
sheet.
return?
That's just for the software, and payroll is just part of the quote.
Okay.
Time tracking and time management isn't part of the payroll system that I'm looking at now. At least I
Okay.
don't think so, because I just asked for the basics only as an option in case we can afford it.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll keep doing what we're doing. Or outsource it to another agency to do.
Well, I don't wanna say definitively that we're gonna set something up, you know, if we don't find something that we wanna go
Well, I
with.
think by November, it should probably be something we should have a discussion and, make a motion on, because we need to get something in place so we can start to better track all that we do.
Do you feel we're not tracking it well now? Because we're already, like, guys' salaries are paid partially from water, partially from sewer, partially from.
And their timesheet tells us what each day they're doing, you know. on
So I
the
think
timesheet.
it's not a bad step to explore, but I mean, to say now that we're gonna just force ourselves into something by November first, or November.
Well, I'm
meeting,
just saying for the near future, we're gonna just make a motion on it now, so that when she finds what she can use, that we're gonna put in place, since you're looking for something now, to do, then we can kind of put that in with it.
What would the motion be, I guess, then?
I guess to, authorize Stacy to, you know, put the software that will include those features, and we'll include those features in with our
Well, I think,
policy.
I mean,
I think you wanna wait for Stacy to review options and then make a recommendation.
yeah, that's what, I mean, I think essentially what we're gonna be approving is the purchase of the software. You know, so I would wait until she's found the software, and when that happens, I mean, Stacy's not dragging her feet on this anyway, she wants it for the
No, I know.
Oh,
office,
gosh,
so.
do we want it?
Yeah, so,
I know.
but I don't think we need to put finite terms on it like that, because I
Okay,
think
I'll
when they
just
find.
ask him,
Yeah.
because it seemed to be a question.
Because there are
Sure.
other option, you know, with that, there are strings, because currently, no employee has a company phone, so to speak, a their own phone. So they would be using their personal.
Well, or they could just
phones.
clock in wherever they're at, you know, on a computer screen at the, here or there, or wherever they're at, they don't have to necessarily use their phone.
Okay, that's why I asked if it was a web-based environment or an app environment, so.
I think all of them are across the board.
Yeah, they
You can
probably
use it
have options
almost any
for,
way.
you know.
You could do it by phone, you could do it if you're on a laptop, you could do it anywhere. Thank you.
Anything from the preservation board?
I'll have in your packets, accounting of activities that Larry works. The checking account has $2,407.85 and petty cash $48. And that's all.
Thank you. NIMS training status, I think I can essentially handle that.
Yes.
So we found out that none of that is mandatory.
I know it comes as mandatory.
Well, I mean, nothing in life is mandatory in that sense, that we
It would be
thought
the
that there
election
was.
code, wouldn't it, if it was mandatory, or we wouldn't be sitting here?
Well, no, but I mean, we thought it was going to hurt us in terms of
Right.
gaining, grants for things and stuff like that because we were not NIM certified, but it makes no,
We're just not in compliance.
No, I thought it would help us, like, and stuff.
it's not bad education
Oh,
to,
no,
to
absolutely not.
go through if you have the time and stuff, but it doesn't have any sort of punishment attached to it. Which is good, because we weren't doing it when we thought there was a punishment attached to it, so. Anything else? Did we want to talk about the truck?
If you'd like, we discussed utilities under budget, but that's fine.
We got a quote for the truck that's falling apart. I'll just bring this up at the end. And we guys looked into it to try and save us some money, so we really appreciate, being creative on that. And just replacing the bed on the one we have will buy us some time. And then the hope would be to, when that time is run out, transfer that bed to a new truck chassis, so that we can, I don't know if we'll save much money that way, but it'll buy us a few years to go this route, and it's about. Sorry.
Thank you, Alex, for getting us.
Yes, Alex. Thanks, so it's $14,681 to replace the bed, as opposed to $40,000 or whatever.
14,000.
681.
681.
Yeah. I can get prices.
Wasn't there some more?
Was there fight rust?
The problem with why it wouldn't pass inspection now would be essentially fixed by putting this bed on, because that's the part that's rusting away, that's the part that's not,
But didn't they indicate they wanted a lift and stuff for the back of that?
It's the lift gate, that's what this is.
It includes that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so-
Thank you, that I didn't know.
And like these things are, it's obviously not on the truck right now, so when the engine dies or the transmission blows, or we just get to that point where we can spend a little bit more money on that, we can buy the half a truck and put the bed on it, that kind of thing.
Half a truck at a time?
It's either that or $65,000.
Yeah, we're not voting on it, so they don't know that it's just to be transparent. All right, so I just wanted, like I said, I wanted to throw that out there. This is going to be a budget discussion, and what we can put in, but this is obviously a much better option, and the other one is essentially without a truck, right? I mean, we don't have too much of an option, and this is probably the best one we're going to
I'm
get.
ready to look into it.
Well, that's all Alex.
Thank you very much for looking
into that.
Yeah, cause I didn't think that was gonna do it for you.
Yeah, we put the truck up on the lift, everything else is good.
Except the tires, it says it
Except
needs
the
4
tires,
tires,
there's
right?
4 tires.
Oh yes, that's right. That's part of it as well.
That's
because-
another
$1,000
$1,500 or
probably.
whatever, right,
Yeah.
that's all they bid on.
However, keep in your minds as well that the other truck is even older, and I don't know. Does anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Who seconded? I'm sorry. Elaine.
11 seconds.
Thank you.
I noticed a bunch of our drains are completely clogged. Do you have any plans for the guys on the drain?
I go in the April, the one with the heavy. I gotta meet with
They
DP.
might not have
And
done
PennDOT.
it with the
My
last
favorite
couple.
piece.
At the same time?
Oh, yeah.
That sounds
DP,
like
PennDOT, UGI, our board meeting.
Yeah, you're right, after this weekend, they really, yeah. I'll make a note, thank you.
Oh, that's
Right.
Oh, was I here? Yes.
Yes, those are always bad, you probably know that.
Set it up right.
Information when it's right in front of them, point to it. So
Well-
they're being flashing green signals, it points to the
And I
green
think
side.
they know the ones that you check first, because it's always those that get that, yeah.
She was just asking if we
When it
need
comes down to
to
saying,
here.
yeah.
Some
I think they-
Some ordinance or something.
To be clear, that's
About
just
us,
in case.
cause like he's doing the sidewalk.
School ones are always
Right.
good.
Yeah,
I would
Joey's
think,
like,
I think my son was like,
Oh,
What's that?
Are you?
Are you gonna turn this off?
Good. I'm trying to stay away, not.
No, no.